Hey guys, Roger's here with me. Scarlett's here. You can see her tail wagging right here. So this is a video I've been wanting to get back to for a while. I did a video on the Vulcan bomber I don't know how long ago. It feels like 2 or 3 months ago at this point. And that video did actually way better than I was expecting it to. But beyond that, I am just really interested when it comes to like military stuff. For some reason, the Air Force appeals to me over the other branches. Now, I'm interested in learning about it all. You know, the Navy and the Army. And is there another branch? Coast Guard? I don't know, Marines? All of those do interest me, and I do want to continue learning about all of them, but for some reason I think the Air Force, because of the technology aspect, and because of its ties to like space, flight, and travel, and stuff like that, because you guys, a lot of you probably know that I'm a big Star Trek fan, so for me the Air Force kind of represents looking forward in technology advancement, and warfare. Not that I'm like cheering on warfare or anything, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. For me, it's really interesting learning about the technological advances in warfare, which is one reason that I'm finding the World War I, the Great War series that I'm going through, really interesting because during that war, technology took like huge leaps. But I remember really enjoying learning about the Vulcan bomber from Captain Joe, I think it was. But a lot of you in the comments on that video let me know that there were like a whole series of V bombers, and the Vulcan was just one of them. The other one, according to this video, looks like they're going to talk about the Victor as well. And I'm not sure if there were others along with the Vulcan and the Victor, but the Vulcan was a really, really good looking plane. It reminded me of the Concorde, and a lot of you in the comments also let me know that it has ties to the Concorde as well. But this video we're going to be watching looks like it's a clip from maybe a larger BBC program. I'm not sure what, but it's going to talk about the Royal Air Force V bombers and their interviews with pilots and the techs, and it just kind of explains the role of the V bombers, I guess, within the Air Force. Before we get into the video, just a quick reminder to like and subscribe if you are enjoying my videos. I would appreciate it. I really enjoy history and military history, and so I'm going to be doing a lot of videos in the future around the same sort of topic. So I really like having all of you guys along for the journey with me, teaching me a lot of stuff down in the comments. And all of my social media links, Discord and Patreon, are in the description as well, and the pinned comment if you're interested in that stuff. But for now, let's learn about the V bombers. I know about the Vulcan, don't know anything about the Victor, so this is going to be a first look at the Victor for me.
Fighter jets were going ever faster as new aircraft shapes were constantly tested in wind tunnels. British designers had learned much from German research.
During the closing years of World War II, Britain discovered that the Germans had very advanced supersonic wind tunnels, far more advanced than what we had in the UK.
In fact, this very wind tunnel in Farnborough is one captured from the Germans and brought back to Britain. Wind tunnel research helped produce a whole new generation of aircraft.
Tell you what, those Germans are really good at engineering. I know because we had Werner von Braun, who came over and helped develop the Saturn V rocket for NASA. He was German. Yeah, I think they had a pretty advanced atomic bomb program too in World War II. They never got it off the ground, but at least I don't know. I need to learn more about the atomic program in Germany, because I just know that America beat them to it, but I'm sure that they eventually did. I really don't know what the nuclear status of Germany is, honestly. Do they have atomic bombs now? I would imagine so. Well, I don't know, because after World War II, they probably weren't allowed to have them, so maybe they don't have them. I need to look into that. But yeah, the Germans really impressed me with their engineering skills.
The V bombers. The Valiant. The Vulcan.
The Valiant, that's the Vulcan.
And the Victor.
The
Three
Vulcan's
very
definitely
different
the
bombers with a common destructive purpose.
Vulcan's the most iconic looking one for
The
sure.
story of the V-bomber is intimately linked to the story of Britain's view of itself in the world. In the late 40s, the British, in order to remain an independent great power, they decided to embark upon creating their own nuclear weapons. If they're going to create their own nuclear weapons, they had to have a way of delivering them. So what did they do? Well, in a way, they went back to the tried and tested formula of the Second World War.
In the war, 3 heavy bombers, the Lancaster, Halifax and Stirling, had pulverized Germany. Now the new generation, Valiant, Vulcan and Victor, could strike a nuclear hammer blow against the Soviet Union. Vulcan and...
Look at that right there. Oh my gosh. That is an iconic picture. I love that. It's also interesting how the planes are kind of like stepped up in height. I don't know if that's on purpose or not, but the one on the left is at the lower level, and then they just kind of increase in height going up. I wonder if that's like that's how they fly formations, and if so, I don't know what the purpose of that is, but still, like seeing that coming at you, that's really intimidating.
And Victor could strike a nuclear hammer blow against the Soviet Union.
Everybody's bombing up against, not bombing up, loading up against the
But
Soviets.
why did the Air Ministry, in a seemingly extravagant move, go for 3 different V-bomber designs?
Yeah.
The ministry decided to go for 3 because the first aircraft, the Valiant, was quite straightforward and simple and could be produced quickly, whereas the more advanced ones, the Vulcan and Victor, were to be proceeded with until it was clear that one of them was the better aircraft. And in the end, the ministry went for all 3 because all 3 worked.
Why not, I guess?
Absolutely incredible if you think about it now, the way things are and the way they were then.
It's all fantastic.
The largest, heaviest and most aerodynamically advanced of the V-bombers was the Victor.
Really? I
With
was
its
expecting him to say the
otherworldly
Vulcan.
crescent-shaped tail and wings, the Victor was massive. Its enormous 110 feet wingspan and distinctive cockpit gave it a predatory presence.
Oh, that is interesting looking cockpit.
I think to this day, the Handley Page Victor is one of the most evil-looking aircraft I've ever seen. If you wanted the plane which looked like something out of 1950s science fiction, it was the Victor.
It kind of like, looking at it from that angle, it kind of looks like a fish to me, which I know is the opposite of what he's saying about looking evil and predatory or whatever. That is a really interesting cockpit design, though. It's just flush with the rest of the plane. The windows are interesting on it. And I was looking at all of the stuff that the pilots had on the sides of the plane. Like, that to me also is kind of fun to look at, because I guess each pilot gets to have like their own little personal, I don't know, spin on the craft that they fly. I don't know if pilots are assigned a particular airplane, and that's like their plane, or if they all share the planes. I mean, I would imagine they don't have enough planes for each pilot to be assigned their own. So I don't know if the stuff that they put on the sides of the plane are like their personal stuff, or if it's just something that like the whole, I don't know what you call it, all of the soldiers together, whatever they're called, air wing, I don't know, decide to put on the plane together.
Evil-looking aircraft I've ever seen. If you wanted the plane which looked like something out of 1950s science fiction, it was the Victor.
A bomber with an incredible range of 6,000 miles, the Victor was powered by 4 thunderous Armstrong-Siddeley Sapphire engines. The pilots could call upon a mammoth 40 tons of thrust to get this monster into the air.
6,000 miles without refueling?
But when it comes to making a lasting impression, there's one V-bomber head and shoulders above the rest.
Yeah.
The Vulcan really is an iconic symbol, I suppose. Everybody knows about the Vulcan. This strange delta shape, unheard of.
No bomber had ever had a shape like this.
It was like a great black bat, with the wheels extended almost like talons. A fantastic sight.
The Vulcan was designed and built by the same company that produced the great Lancaster bomber, Avro.
Now the world's first
Heard of them
delta-wing
before.
four-jet bomber, the Avro Vulcan.
And there was no better man to show it off than Avro's chief
That's
test
why.
pilot, Rowley Falk.
Immediately I got into her, I knew that I'd got absolute confidence and
Brilliant man, a wonderful test pilot and a great salesman. He used to fly in a grey pinstripe suit, never wore overalls, and at Farnborough, which was very important, he would have lunch with a customer and then he would dash out in his pinstripe suit and get into the Vulcan and fly, and he always flew immaculately.
Everybody's used to bombers droning along, laboriously getting into the air like sort of flying pigs. This thing just sort of leapt off the ground. It was incredible.
At the 1955 air show, Falk did what no one had ever done with a heavy bomber. He rolled the Vulcan. The crowds loved it, but Falk was given a ticking off. He was told this was inappropriate behavior for a bomber.
Okay. That's interesting. That there's certain behaviors that certain planes have. I actually never thought about that with bombers not being able to roll. I guess if I had to think about a bomber that the U.S. has, like the B-2 Spirit bomber, which I would say is probably the U.S. equivalent of the Vulcan, maybe. Yeah, that would be kind of weird seeing that roll. So maybe I understand that. But yeah, I hadn't really ever thought about that, like what certain planes can and can't do in air shows. It's also he flew in just like a normal pinstripe suit. I'm surprised that they let them do that, because I thought that pilots had to wear a flight suit for a reason, like for safety and all of that. So
By the time the Vulcan entered service with the RAF in 1956, Tony Blackman was joining Avro as a test pilot. He, like Falk, once wowed the crowds at Farnborough.
Now you must turn at once to Tony Blackman. There he goes. He's now on the top of the loop. He's over the top and he's rolling out.
Huge bomber it may have been, but the cockpit is surprisingly cramped. As well as two pilots in the front, the back had to fit in a navigator radar, navigator plotter, and electronics officer.
It's amazing to be back. Nothing's changed. Just slightly harder, perhaps, climbing up the steps. I used to do it a bit quicker. And of course, the flight deck is so small. A large aircraft with a minute flight deck with a stick, and it was just like a fighter, really.
The Vulcan served in the RAF for an impressive 28 years, even flying missions in the Falklands War in 1982. But there's now only one in the world that still flies, and it's based at Doncaster Airport. It's an important...
I think that's not true anymore, right? Didn't they retire the last one? So this might be a little bit older of a documentary.
At Doncaster Airport. It's an important day for XH558. She's going to do a special flypast over a gathering of former V-bomber crews.
When you taxi out, of course, the power is very low and there's not very much noise, and you don't really appreciate what a powerful machine you're handling. It all seems so tame. And then, of course, when you open up the power, it takes a little time for the engines to accelerate. And if you open up to full power on the brakes and then let go, it's absolutely fantastic, the acceleration rate.
The power in the 301 engines was so enormous because you had four engines, 20,000 pound static thrust each, and the Vulcan dry only weighed just over 100,000 pounds, so that's why the Vulcan would go. You get this tremendous kick up the backside, I suppose, like driving
it's just
a racing car.
effortless takeoff.
Vulcan, you clear maneuver.
Beautiful airborne, the Vulcan triggers vivid memories for those who spent long hours on the flight deck.
It was a typical Avro aircraft. It was black inside and had the Avro smell of a mixture of hydraulic fluid, fuel and vomit.
Oh, oh.
And those engines have a sound that anyone who's ever heard a Vulcan before instantly recognizes.
Yeah.
That screaming sound, I remember that.
We hear him quite well there, couldn't we? We reckon he was about 800 feet, I think. Yeah, something like that. We call happy days, I suppose. Happy days. Really.
Nostalgic.
Nostalgic, yeah.
Nostalgic.
You know what that sound reminds me of? I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan. I never read the books or anything, but I did go see the movies, and it's the what are the, I know that they're called something. It's like the demonic characters that kind of like haunted. I don't know if they haunted Harry Potter. Whatever they're called, I forgot what they're called, but they made a sound. I remember them making a sound that was very similar to this. And so whenever I hear that, I think about that from the movies.
But these bomber crews had a deadly serious job. Anthony Wright flew all the V-bombers. He spent most of the 1960s practicing for nuclear war with the Soviet Union.
I was 21 when I first was responsible for my nuclear weapon in my aircraft. It was a Cold War. They were against us, we were against them, and if they were going to hurt us, then I'd do the same to them.
Practice missions with dummy bomb drops were carried out over areas of mainland Britain that replicated Soviet territory.
So if you went on a mission east, you'd go high, first of all, and then you go down below the Russian-Polish radar, go in and drop your nuclear weapon, and come back. And that was it, really.
We always felt that the massive destruction that could be dealt by the V-bombers would have been so colossal that no one in their right minds would even think about attacking this country.
Well, I mean, that is the point of the nuclear bombs, right? It's a mutual assured destruction. I mean, that's why the Soviet Union and the US built up their stockpiles to several thousand, you know, which I think is just ridiculous. Like, you don't need 6,000 nuclear weapons. Like, what's the point? You just need, like, a couple, maybe, you know? Like, that's, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they have extras just in case one doesn't work or something, but still, like, 6,000, really? But yeah. So it's interesting to hear that from the UK perspective. Like, I don't know anything about the UK's nuclear program. And actually, I don't know much about the UK's involvement in the Cold War. I kind of recently, that was brought to my attention when I did a video on the Plan Red stuff. And I think a lot of people from the UK were kind of like, a little upset with me that I didn't know much about the UK's involvement in the Cold War. And I had a very American perspective of it, because over here it's mostly taught about, you know, US versus Russia. And that's how we primarily learn about it. And we don't really get taught, you know, the kind of the international view of the Cold War, which is unfortunate, you know, because there's so much more to it than that. So yeah, so this is the whole like UK nuclear program is a bit of a mystery to me. So it's interesting hearing them talk about it like that. Sounds exactly like the American rhetoric.
Think about attacking this country.
I'm very proud to have flown the V-bombers. Under my father was in bombing command during the war, and he was only too pleased to bomb Germany, same as I had no problem whatsoever to bomb Russia if I had to.
The V-bombers were emblematic of the brilliance, but also the extravagance of the British aircraft industry in the 1950s.
The big problem was there wasn't enough funding to pay for all these.
As well as all the bombers, There was now an almost bewildering array of fighters in or about to come into service with both the RAF and Navy.
Okay, yeah, so they were about to go into another part, so this was obviously part of a larger documentary. If you guys know what that is, let me know, because they didn't put that in the description what this is from. So it looks like something that I might want to watch, actually. So if you guys know what sort of documentary this comes from, or which documentary it comes from, let me know down in the comments. I would appreciate it. Very, very interesting look at it. They didn't talk much about the Valiant. The Victor was, you know, weirdly enough, to me, like, the Vulcan looks more like a sci-fi plane than the Victor does. The Victor, to me, maybe in the 50s, it looks sci-fi-ish, but for me, personally, like, I find the Vulcan to be way more, sci-fi-ish looking than the Victor. The Victor has a very unique design, but to me, it still looks more like a traditional plane, you know? So I guess to certain people, you know, everybody perceives things differently, but that's just my personal perception of it. But they also, the 6,000 mile range of the Victor, though, was crazy, and I'm assuming that means without being refueled, which is nuts. That's like flying across the United States a couple of times without stopping, which is insane. Or I guess halfway around the world, probably. So really good video. Really enjoyed learning more about the V bombers. And yeah, I think the last Vulcan was retired. A lot of you have told me that. So, which is a shame, you know. I guess they don't even fly do they still fly these at like air shows just for, you know, I guess they're probably not commissioned in the Air Force anymore, but do they still fly them at like air shows and stuff? So yeah, the whole like aviation stuff in the military, because in World War I, that's the first war where planes were used, and I really want to learn more about like the history of aviation in warfare. So this is going to be, I guess, a part of that kind of overall learning journey with that. So it was fun learning more about the UK's nuclear program, and the V bombers were the method that they chose to deliver those bombs. And I think now the UK has like a nuclear triad just like the US does, which is like submarine, air, and then like ICBMs launched from the ground, I think. Anyway, we'll have a lot more videos like this coming up on my channel. Roger and I here, thank you guys for watching as always, and we'll see you next time.